Thank you to Rabbi Mendy, Rebbetzin Esther Malka, to Moish and to Hannah for inviting me to present this pre-Shabbos video. I wish everybody Shabbat Shalom and a restful weekend. I have developed the characters, written the story, composed the music and songs to a very special program for children called Adventures at Humming Hive. It is a series, and the title Here We Are is the first episode, which was recently launched as an audio book. It is currently in the United Kingdom, America, Israel, United Arab Emirates, Canada, South Africa, Singapore, and China. So the Adventures of Humming Hive tells the story of the Petunia family, Mum Tina, Dad Oliver, daughter Petal Petunia, son Peter, and an adopted Hollyhocks who comes to live with them. There are 8 different communities which make up the Society of Humming Hive: the Petunia family, Ginger the cat, Freddy the frog, the ducks, snails, caterpillars, ladybirds who are the committee members, and the birds who are the grandparents and the elders of the community. At Humming Hive, differences are resolved with confidence and high self-esteem. The musical storytelling includes singing, musical role play, turn-taking, cooperation, mutual respect, social inclusion, social awareness, and self-belief. To listen to the music of Humming Hive, and you will hear by the instrumentation that it's the 6 different communities joining together to make one society. A live band actually does perform. I'm also going to include a song called Here We Are, which is an action song and involves patting, dancing, stepping, and clapping. The music within the program has been extremely thoughtfully put together in that there is a sense of balance between the active participatory elements and the more contemplative, restful, meditative segments. Guided listening is so important for our young children to be able to have the skill of focused listening, and the grandparents, the elders of society, actually sing and make the bird sounds which provide that focal point for our children. The story focuses on misunderstandings which lead to social exclusion and result in active sabotage, which put the whole of the Society of Humming Hive at very great risk. But a strong sense of community and social inclusion ensures that all the members of society work together, their voices are heard, from the children through to the adults, the parents, the ladybirds, the committee members, the birds, the elders of the community speak, are heard, are understood as they effectively collaborate and contribute to each other's sense of well-being. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak about my program, which really does promote peace, harmony, and tranquility into children, but in a musical, fun-filled way. Next year, the artwork will be available in the ebook and the print book, which will be launched. And I thank you so sincerely for inviting me, and Shabbat Shalom.
want to move, we want to groove. La 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 la, a little bit softer. La 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 la, a little bit slower. La 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 la, a little bit faster. La 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 la.
Good Shabbos, everyone. I would like to show you how to make curried quinoa sweet potato patties. I've already sauteed some onions, and I need to saute it with a tablespoon of curry. Also, some garlic and some ginger. So let's just put that in there. After it's sauteed for about 10 minutes, 1 onion, it was a tablespoon of curry, a 4-centimeter piece of ginger, and 2 loaves of garlic. It will look like this. It smells really nice. Indian dinner. Okay, so after that's cooked, I'm going to transfer it into a bowl. Okay. So in the bowl, I'm going to add a cup of mashed sweet potato, a cup of quinoa, 1 egg, like a half a cup or even a third a cup of coriander, or I use parsley, and a quarter of a cup of wholemeal flour or plain flour. Add that all in, mix it up. This is how the patty mixture should look, with the quinoa, the sweet potato, coriander, ginger, garlic, and curry, and onion, of course. Okay, so I'm gonna make them into patties. Maybe a bit smaller than that. Okay, flatten them down, and we're gonna do this with the remainder of the mixture, and then we are gonna put it in the refrigerator for about a half hour. Okay, these are the patties after they came out from the fridge. Now I'm gonna put them in hot oil and cook them a few minutes on each side. Okay, these patties look just about done. So this is how it should look. Plate it up. Then I'm gonna, if it's served with a milk cake meal, you could have a nice dollop of sour cream. And finish it off with some chives. And you got there some sweet potato quinoa curry patties with a side of, I made some coleslaw, just red cabbage, and some mandarin, and some lemon juice. So bon appetit, and enjoy your freedom, and enjoy the patties. Have a good Shabbos.
This week's Parsha, Chayei, contains the most serene description of old age and dying anywhere in the Torah. Then Abraham breathed his last and died at a good old age, an old man and full of years, and he was gathered to his people. There is an earlier verse, no less moving. Abraham was old, well advanced in years, and God had blessed Abraham with everything. Nor was this serenity the gift of Abraham alone. Rashi was puzzled by the description of Sarah. Sarah lived to be 127 years old, the years of Sarah's life. The last phrase seems completely superfluous. Why not just tell us that Sarah lived to the age of 127? What is added by saying that these were the years of Sarah's life? Rashi is led to the conclusion that the first half of the verse talks about the quantity of her life, how long she lived, while the second tells us about the quality of her life, the years she's lived, were all equal in goodness. Yet how is any of this conceivable? Abraham and Sarah were commanded by God to leave everything that was familiar, their land, their home, their family, and travel to an unknown land. No sooner had they arrived than they were forced to leave because of famine. Twice Abraham's life was at risk. When driven into exile, he worried that he would be killed so that the local ruler could take Sarah into his harem. Sarah herself had to say that she was Abraham's sister and had to suffer the indignity of being taken into a stranger's household. Then there was the long wait for a child, made even more painful by the repeated divine promise that they would have as many children as the stars of the skies or the dust of the earth. Then came the drama of the birth of Ishmael to Sarah's servant Hagar. This aggravated the relationship between the two women, and eventually Abraham had to send Hagar and Ishmael away. One way or another, this was a source of pain to all four people involved. Then there was the agony of the binding of Isaac. Abraham was faced with the prospect of losing the person most precious to him. The child he had waited for so long, for a variety of reasons. Neither Abraham nor Sarah had an easy life. Theirs were lives of trial, in which their faith was tested at many points. How can Rashi say that all of Sarah's years were equal in goodness? How can the Torah say that Abraham had been blessed with everything? The answer is given by the Parsha itself, and is very unexpected. 7 times Abraham had been promised the land. Here's just one of those occasions. The Lord said to Abram, after Lot had parted from him, "Raise your eyes, and from the place where you are now, look to the north, to the south, to the east, and to the west. All the land that you see I will give to you and your offspring forever. Go walk through the land and breadth of the land, for I'm giving it to you." Yet by the time Sarah dies, Abraham had no land at all, and he's forced to prostrate himself before the local Hittites and beg for permission to acquire even a single field with a cave in which to bury his wife. Even then he has to pay what is clearly a massively inflated price, 400 silver shekels. This did not sound like the fulfillment of the promise of all the land north, south, east, and west. Then in relation to children, Abraham is promised 4 times, "I will make you into a great nation. I will make your offspring like the dust of the earth." Outside, God took Abraham outside and said, "Look at the sky and count the stars. See if you can count them." God then said to him, "That is how numerous your descendants will be. No longer shall you be called Abram. Your name shall be Abraham, for I have set you up as the father of many nations." Yet he had to wait so long for even a single son by Sarah, that when God insisted that she would indeed have a son, both Abraham and Sarah laughed. One way or another, whether we think of children or the land, the 2 key divine promises to Abraham and Sarah, the reality fell far short of what they may have been felt entitled to expect. That, however, is precisely the meaning and message of Chayei. In it, Abraham does 2 things. He buys the first plot in the land of Canaan, and he arranges for the marriage of Isaac. 1 field and a cave was for Abraham, enough for the text to say, God had blessed Abraham with everything. 1 child, Isaac, by then married and with children. Abraham was 100 years when Isaac was born. Isaac was 60 when the twins Jacob and Esau were born, and Abraham was 175 when he died, was enough for Abraham to die in peace. Lao Tzu, the Chinese sage, said that a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. To that, Judaism adds, "It is not for you to complete the work, but neither are you free to desist from it." God himself said of Abraham, "For I have chosen him so that he will direct his children and his household after him to keep a way of the Lord by doing what is right and just, so that the Lord will bring out for Abraham and what he had promised him." The meaning of this is clear. If you ensure that your children will continue to live for what you have lived for, then you can have faith that they will continue your journey until eventually they reach the destination. Abraham did not see all the land in Jewish hands, nor did he see the Jewish people become numerous. He had taken the first step, he had begun the task, and he knew that his descendants would continue it. He was able to die serenely because he had faith in God, and faith that others would complete what he had begun. The same was true of Sarah. To place your life in God's hands, to have faith that whatever happens to you happens for a reason, to know that you're part of a larger narrative, and to believe that others will continue what you began, is to achieve a satisfaction in life that cannot be destroyed by circumstance. Abraham and Sarah had faith that they were able to die with a sense of fulfillment. To be happy does not mean that you have everything you want or everything you were promised. It means simply to have done what you were called on to do, to have made a beginning and then have passed on the baton to the next generation. The righteous, even in death, are regarded as they were still alive, because the righteous leaving a living trace in those who come after them. That was enough for Abraham and Sarah, and it must be enough for us. Shabbat Shalom, and stay safe.
The yard sites for the upcoming week: Peter Bloom for your father, Moshe Bloom for your father, Eli Kohenka for both your father and mother, Debbie Bloom for your father, Ruth Felbel, David Felbel, and Kay Fink for your father and grandfather, Martin Israel for your wife, Ian Katz for your father, Shaul Vardi for your mother, and Peter Zing for your father. Wish you all long life. The Jewish birthdays for the upcoming week: Lauren Bendel, Vera Berger, Tal Dembo, Kalila Friedman, Kate Kestenberg, Lex Korngold, Darren Kupchik, Zara Lewis, and Kiana Shankar. Wish you all a very happy Jewish birthday. In last week's Parsha, the Torah states, V'Avraham v'Sarah zekenim ba'im ba'yamim, which is translated as, and Abraham and Sarah were old, well on in their years. Now, obviously, if they were old, means they were well on in their years. But if you look at the literal translation of ba'im ba'yamim, ba'im means entering, ba'yamim in the days. So the literal translation of the verse is, and Abraham and Sarah were old, entering in the days, which means that even when they were old, they entered each day as one who enters their own private home, fully and without reserve. They connected to each moment and held it close to them. They embraced time and let time themselves be embraced by it. They lived fully in the moment, whenever and wherever they were. So the first half of the verse, and Abraham and Sarah were old, speaks about the amount of their days, the quantity of their days. And the second half of the verse, Ba'im Ba'yamim, speaks about the manner they lived in those days, the quality of their life. Now, as Russell Gecelter elaborated before, Abraham and Sarah had a very turbulent life. They went through a lot of trials and tribulations and hardships, 10 tests, and they also had many moments of great joy. When they encountered hardships, they never escaped from it. They faced the difficulties and dealt with them to the best of their ability. And they surely embraced the moments of joy very deeply. So they truly lived in the here and now. Now, in this week's Parsha, after Sarah has died, it says, V'Avraham zakein ba bayamim, an identical verse. And Abraham was old, well on in their years. And we can also learn a similar but different message, that even Abraham, after the passing of his wife, and many other trials and tribulations and happy moments, he still entered into his days. You know, when people get older, when people age, they tend to get less excited about things. You know, excitement and novelty are closely related. So the older you get, and you've seen everything. So things that happen in your life or in the world don't necessarily excite you. You've seen them already. You don't get so affected by them. And similarly, you know, your views and your lifestyle is sort of set, and sometimes set in stone. There is obviously a positive aspect to that. There's a stability to that. But at the same time, it may stifle your life. Abraham was very different. Abraham entered every single day. He was open to life like a child the first day they enter in school. He was always open to new ideas. He was always ready to learn new things. He was always ready to grow. And everything that happened, even though he was stable and took it with maturity, but at the same time, he lived with it. He embraced it. This is a very important lesson for all of us, and especially for those who are getting older. We need to embrace life, every moment of it, even the good and the bad. We can't become numb to life as we grow older. We have to live life. You know, time passed. When time passes, it needs to be time well spent. Even when you manage your time, we still need that to make sure that this time is well spent. Because every single day has its song. Every hour has its calling. And every second, heaven is knocking at our door. Let's live life to the fullest. Good Shabbos.